We live. Well, we're not live. We got
we're
video.
live?
No, we're not live.
Okay.
I wouldn't do you that way. Oh, man. Hey, everybody. It's Mark from Cedar Creek Bottoms Farmstead with another fireside chat. I've got Mr. Rusty and Mr. Haddie with me today. Y'all met Mr. Rusty a little over a month ago on his video, and he come over to sit with us for a while, and we're going to do some talking. But today we're going to listen to Mr. Haddie that I've been knowing since school.
Oh yeah.
So we went to school together and belonged to the same hunting club for years and lived within a few miles of each other. And he's had a lot of different things happen over the last few years, well, for a long time. A lot of stuff even before the hunting club. So
back when I was a teenager.
yeah, so we'll let him tell some of his stuff, and he's a little nervous about this, so y'all bear with him. I told him he's just talking to a telephone right now, so
Yeah, right now.
so yeah, don't worry about it, brother. Everybody's gonna love you. So, but I'll let you go ahead and take it off. You can tell a little bit about yourself that you want people to know. Don't tell nothing you don't want to know, but you know, I mean, if you want to give a little background, you can. Or if you just want to really get started off into what all's happened over the years and anything besides Bigfoot. If you've had alien or paranormal, you can tell that too. I don't mind.
Yeah.
So
Well, my nickname's Haddie. I've been living in Silicaga my whole life. Right, most of it right at the foot of Creepy Mountain, and spent a lot of time in the woods hunting. A lot of time in the woods, probably more than most folks. But yeah, just been living in Silicaga my whole life. Had a lot of strange experiences over the years. A lot of it never knew what it was back years ago, and then later on, you know, you think, well, maybe that's what that was. But I'm gonna start out with some of the stuff that happened way before the Creepy Mountain. I guess the first thing I remember is when I was a kid back then. I can't remember what age I was, but we had a little poodle dog when I was a kid that stayed in the house, and my mom would let it out every morning to go out and use the bathroom when we got up before daylight. And she went and let it out one morning. The little dog wouldn't go out. Still dark outside. And she looked up there and saw two big yellow eyes at the edge of the yard up there. And of course, back then, in those days, we didn't really think of Bigfoot, because even though we probably saw TV shows about it, Bigfoot was in the Pacific Northwest pretty much, where everybody thought Bigfoot was. And that was probably the first experience that I think was probably a Sasquatch or a Bigfoot. Don't really know what it was, to tell you the truth.
right. Did she smell anything, or did she just seen it?
No, and it's been so long ago, and I hadn't talked to her about it recently. As far as I know, she just saw the big yellow eyes. You know, she shut the door and come back in the house.
Right.
They wasn't like close to the ground. I mean, they was up.
Yeah, they were up. Like
right.
a, she. The only thing we could attribute it to back then was, you know, we might have thought it was an owl, but of course an owl doesn't have eye shine.
Right, 'cause it was off the ground more than a cat or a dog or
Right.
something like that.
Yeah, it was up off the ground pretty good. And I guess the next one I remember is about half a mile from I was probably 16 or 17. About a half a mile from the house there, me and my girlfriend used to have a little hangout spot we'd go to at the time, right behind the airport over here. And we'd park the car, had to go down beside, there were some railroad tracks there, and there was a field on the other side. And we'd go right beside those railroad tracks, and we'd park right there, turn around, and hang out right there. And one night we were sitting there, we had the radio playing, of course, just later on in the night, 9, 10 o'clock at night. And over the radio, I could hear something taking steps in the woods. You know, one step at a time. I turned the radio down. I said, what is that? And you could hear it. I mean, you could tell it was big. Of course, we got scared now. Had an old 74 Plymouth Duster, and I went to start it, and it was always real slow starting.
Yeah, Dodges are anyway.
It finally cranked up, and we got out of there.
Sounds like the beginning of a movie we've all seen a
But
lot.
she said, there was a sign, a railroad sign out on the road where you pull out.
Right.
And she said she saw 2 red eyes over that railroad sign. I don't know if she did or not. I didn't see it. I just got out of there. And we still hung out in that area, and we just picked a different spot. We went on down.
A little more cautious.
Yeah, a little farther down. And it was more open, and you could see around. And I did hear some strange howls and things around, but I didn't know what it was back then.
There's already been sightings from that area.
Yeah.
So,
I found out later on, later on in the years, there was a lot of sightings over that way. And it's only like
Yeah, I mean, by the way the crow flies, we're not far from anything.
but it's only like a couple of miles from Freedom Mountain.
yeah, a straight shot. It's not far.
No.
And there's stuff been seen over around the quarries, off and on. And you're talking about not far from the quarries. And so,
They're definitely related if it ain't the same
Right.
one.
Yeah.
Cousins at least.
Yeah.
That's probably as far back as I remember, that's probably the first experiences I had.
Y'all didn't smell nothing or anything. You just heard
No.
footsteps. And did she seen something around the railroad sign? I know the
Yeah.
field you're talking about. It's an old big hay
Yeah.
field.
Well, I actually went back the next day. I thought, well, maybe it's a cow or something like that, out in that field.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the only thing I could think of. And I rode back the next day, and there were no cows in the field. It was just a wide open field, not fenced in or anything.
Right, yeah,
It's right on the other side of those railroad tracks. But,
Yeah, they used to row crop it some. My dad and them planted it in corn before, but then the other guy from Fayetteville turned it into a big hay field. And
that's right.
that's all they've been doing, cutting hay off of it for years. And
But whatever it was making a lot of noise because I had the radio playing and you could hear it crunching when it was taking. I mean, you could tell it was
yeah,
two-legged because it was not like a four-legged cow or anything like
Right,
that. That's the
right.
only thing I could attribute it to back then. Back then was a horse or cow or something like that. There was nothing like that around there.
well, not far through the woods too, over there off the Chevron Rock Road. I ain't gonna worry about saying that, but some families. I ain't gonna say their name. You know them, but y'all know them. But they had some stuff going back in the 40s and 50s. And through the woods, that ain't a half a mile, maybe
Oh, yeah.
a mile at the most. So
Yeah, it's not far at all.
Well, I know this interview is more about Haddie, but when you said something a while ago, I wanted to ask you, what about in all your years at the quarry? Did you not ever
I never did see something myself.
were you inside more or outside
Well, I was a
more?
millwright, and I traveled the whole place, but we never did notice anything. But one guy who passed away this past summer, I went to see if I could interview him and found out he had passed away. But he used to run the dump truck at night, and he went up to the dump and he claimed something on 2 feet chased him around the truck, and he finally got away from it. He said it was monkey looking, and Davy Beasley is one that reminded me about that. And then there was somebody, because they might not want me to say their name, was going to work one night when you crossed the Fayetteville Road going into toward the Imary's plant. They watched a two-legged something come out of the growed up side of the road where cross the road and jump a 6-foot chain link fence going into the old printing place. Watched it jump that 6-foot fence.
Ain't far from where you was at. That wasn't you.
No,
was it?
it's not
Okay.
far at all.
I'll make sure it wasn't you.
Yeah, so that was seen, and then there's some other people who have talked about hearing stuff at night. Some of the other millwrights way back yonder mentioned about we had a area where we kept scrap iron and parts and stuff, and sometimes we'd go up there to get a piece of scrap metal or something. And a couple of them millwrights that worked second shift talked about hearing stuff up there around that stuff before at night that was strange. They wouldn't hang out up there long. They just grab what they had to get
And get out of there.
Yeah, so. Good possibility. I mean, it's hard to say.
Oh yeah.
But go ahead, Haddie. Go ahead. And
Well, the next thing I wanted to tell, we used to have a little hunting cabin back in it was down in Coosa County, which is on right on the edge of a hunting club land down there now, which is not too far from the Coosa County management area. My dad and his friend, I'm not gonna mention his friend's name, but they built this little, it's like a one-room shack, and we had bunk beds in it and things like that. Well, it was like probably a mile or two off the main road, and it was really hard to get into. I mean, you had to have a really good four-wheel drive because the mud holes were real bad, and it was just hard to get back in there, way back deep in the woods. They built this little old shack back in there, had the bunk beds, and they had a wood heater. Well, the first night when they finished it, they stayed there. And that night, it got down to like 0 degrees. It was one of those really cold times that we had in Alabama. It got to 0 degrees and the ground froze and everything. They had that wood heater going in there. They had it rolling, had wood in there, had it fired up. And well, in the middle of the night, just them two stayed there. Something walked up to the side of that cabin. This is what my dad told me.
I remember this.
And started banging hard on the side of that cabin. Went down one side. Of course, they wake up, they hear this. Two grown, they was in their 40s at the time. Men is pretty much not scared of nothing.
Right.
Loaded their shotguns and aimed them at the door. But in the back of their mind, they're wondering, maybe it's one of our sons, because I was grown at the time, and the other guy had 2 grown sons. Well, maybe they come in here and they pranking us. But it went on around the cabin. They could hear it walking because the ground was froze. Because it got down to 0 degrees and the ground was froze. They could hear it stepping. And it went all the way to the back side of that cabin, come up the other side. Well, they aimed their shotguns at the door. And my dad told his buddy, he said, go out there and see what that is. He said, I ain't going out there. And he said,
said some choice words.
Exactly.
I actually heard your daddy tell that
Yeah.
story a long time ago, and I didn't think he was telling me the truth
Yeah.
because I was 12, 13.
Well, yeah.
I thought he was trying to scare me.
Well, both of them told me the same story, but
Yeah.
anyway, they had both their guns. They said if something had rattled that doorknob,
Yeah. Yeah.
they would have blown the door off. But it went down the other side, and then it walked on off, whatever it was.
Yeah.
And
I asked your dad, I said, what if that been your son? And
I
he
know.
said, well, he wouldn't have done it twice, would he?
yeah, I mean, they
Well, being that cold and being that far off the road,
right.
I mean, it's a possibility it could have been a human, but very
If a vehicle would have came in there, they probably would have heard it.
right. Sound like to me,
Somebody wasn't happy with their new neighbors and was just letting them know.
that's what it
Well,
sounds
yeah,
like.
something. I'm thinking, that cabin hadn't been there. They just had got it built.
Right,
It's like-
right.
it's
Not
like-
happy with the new
yeah,
neighbor.
it's like, what is this?
Well, probably seen the truck sitting there.
Yeah.
And knew they was in
They
there.
had to haul, everything to build that little cabin in on trucks, and it took them a few days to get it built.
They was checking for
It-
vacancies.
it-
They look cool too.
It wouldn't
Maybe
anything.
water-
That wall feels warm.
Yeah. That's
They-
what it, I mean.
yeah.
It's got the ear markings of.
They tried to explain it away, or maybe a deer had come up and was bumping the antlers on the side of the cabin. But,
Sure.
none of that really made sense.
Right.
It's we know Coosa County has a lot of sightings
Oh,
too.
yeah.
So.
And then another time, I remember when we was there, I was there this time, and my dad goes out before daylight. We always got up before daylight to go hunting and whatnot. He opens the door and he said there was a hollow there. There was one ridge and a hollow and
Not
another
drinking
ridge.
a beer.
He said that as soon as he stepped out, he heard something running through the woods, breaking limbs off of trees. And we, back at that time, we thought it was a deer. But something took off one ridge, run down through the hollow, come up across the other ridge, just breaking big limbs off trees. And deer don't do that, of course. Now, I know that. But back then, we just thought it was a deer.
Right.
But a deer just don't take off running through the woods because somebody steps out of a cabin breaking limbs off the trees.
Right.
And my dad's buddy did see something run across the road during the daytime one time that he said was all fours, on all fours. You didn't get a good look at it, but he said it was higher in the back than it was in the front. That's
Right.
what he said.
Like the monkey crawl.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
And we were like trying to think like, well, what is that? Hog? We couldn't think of it. He said it was big, and he saw it run across the road, and he just got a glimpse of it. It runs so fast, he said he couldn't tell what it was.
So this was pretty close to the management area.
It's
Fairly
it's probably 4 or 5 miles from the management area through the woods.
which is not very far for something that,
Oh no, not at all.
of the nature of
And
the beast.
I mean, it was there was a lot of strange things down there. Of course, back then we didn't really think a whole lot about it. I wished I could remember everything, but it's been so long ago. I was probably 20 years old, and I'm 57 now, so it's hard to remember it all.
Oh yeah, I know. I agree. I know what you're talking about.
I wonder if they're offended if you dare use the word beast.
I don't know.
I don't know.
That's probably some of the.
Bigfoot's probably offended too.
Oh, yeah,
Everybody
stuff
else
that
is
I
offended
remember.
these days. Oh, the damn world's offended. Oh, sorry.
It's all right. Don't worry about it. Every now and then, I don't worry about stuff like that. Most everybody ain't gonna pay it no attention. So. But I mean, yeah, I agree. I think I had a lot of stuff happen before I seen one that I think may have been part of that. I mean, I can't prove that, but I think.
Yeah, before we ever could this, Bigfoot ever come to light of any kind of possibility of something, like you said, you see something, it's 2 feet, 4 feet, big, small. You run through all the possibilities. You're near a cow pasture, you're near the woods. Where
Right.
you're at of what it can be, and that just wasn't ever. I mean, what Harry and the Hendersons was
Right.
the first,
Well, and that-
anything of any kind of,
And, and what I'm talking about is years before Harry.
right. That's what I'm saying. So I mean, there wasn't a lot of,
I mean, you hear, strange calls and.
It almost took social media really for people to start linking together to start, building the puzzle of what is what.
I mean, we were there every weekend during hunting season for years.
Right.
We heard all kind of crazy stuff at night, before daylight. One morning I went out deer hunting, and I walked down in the hollow down there, and there's a big mountain, not like Creepy Mountain down there. And I was sitting there before daylight, and it started turning daylight, and a whole flock of turkeys come flying off the ridge.
Well, you got a fan already.
It's a spam. And a whole flock of turkeys come flying off the ridge there, and of course I had a high-powered rifle. It was turkey season in the fall, but I couldn't shoot a turkey with a rifle.
Right.
And I was sitting there watching those turkeys, and something screamed on top of that mountain that sounded like a woman screaming. And no lie, every one of those turkeys jumped that high, and all done their feathers at the same time,
Spoke them a little too.
flapped their feathers. I'd never seen that before. Every one of those turkeys jumped that high off the ground, whatever that was on that mountain screamed.
I wonder if that's what run them off the mountain. Up there, whatever.
That's why I was
Well,
thinking
they were they were on the roost on one ridge.
Yeah.
Whatever this was way up high on a mountain up there, and they were over here on the ridge. They just come off the roost
Right.
in
Oh,
daylight
okay.
and land. They just happened to land where I was at,
Right. Okay.
and we're out there pecking around and stuff.
But they reacted to that
Oh
noise.
yeah, whatever that was.
It wasn't
screamed-
just you that heard it.
right.
Yeah, they
Whatever that
reacted
was
to that.
screamed scared those turkeys, and made them jump up and flap their wings
Right. Right.
like they were scared. I never saw that before.
Well, we know they probably go after turkeys too.
But whatever it was, it screamed sounded like a woman
Oh,
screaming.
yeah.
I mean, back then, I thought, well, it must be a mountain lion or
Or a bobcat or something.
it wasn't no bobcat.
Yeah. Had more vocal to it.
Yeah, it wasn't a bobcat. It sounded like a woman screaming. That's what it sounded like. Really loud.
So just before even we get on Creepy Mountain a minute, you've had a lot of stuff happen that
Oh yeah,
you don't know what it really was, but you know it was peculiar.
yeah. Back then, I just thought,
Yeah.
panther, mountain lion, whatever.
Right. And I'm the same way. I had a lot of stuff happen that now, after I got thinking about it, I said, you know, I may have been experiencing a lot of this and didn't realize what I was experiencing.
Right.
You know,
There's probably the things I remember. There's probably twice as much that I forgot about over the years.
oh yeah,
Right.
I agree with you. I'm probably in the same boat. And,
I just remember that actually when we were talking about it.
right. So, go ahead and keep on whatever you want to talk about, brother.
Since I'm on the Coosa County thing, this is not that many years ago, but we was on up and we knowed about the Sasquatch by then. We're probably already on Creek Mountain at that time, but I went hunting on Coosa County management area. And sometimes when I'd go hunting, I would take a book with me to read. So if I got bored, you know,
Right.
I just read a little bit and then look around, read a little
Better than
bit.
sleeping, ain't it?
Yeah. And I was actually reading the Sasquatch book. But I was watching this little old green field next to Weguff Creek down there where I was at. Well, it's a still evening. Nothing.
Sound like you was
sound.
down in there in Goat Bluff.
I hadn't hunted that area a whole lot, so I don't really know for sure, but I know I was on the edge of Weguff Creek right there. And there was I'd walked up the creek and looked, and there's a big
Bluff.
rock wall,
Yeah,
bluff right
yeah,
there.
that's Goat
And there's
Bluff.
a green field right on the edge of it.
Yeah.
A lot of hog tracks in there and things like that, but I sat where I could see that green field, and I just read that book some, and a tree got pushed over. Say, well, maybe it's a beaver, you know, on that creek, and just chewed one of those trees down is the only thing I could think. Well, a little while later, another tree gets pushed over.
Very peculiar now.
Yeah. And a little while later, I hear a big splash in that creek, and I heard a rock hit another rock. So I know this is
Right.
the creek's not real deep.
Right.
So I know, I'm thinking a rock, something throwed a rock. Of course, it could have fell off the bluff now. You know, the bluff wall there. But I heard the rock, when it went in the creek, clack the other rock. You know what I'm
Yeah, I know
talking
what
about?
you're
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It hit bottom and clacked.
Right.
So that was kind of strange, and it was stranger that I was reading. And I always wondered if it was because I was reading that Sasquatch book that somehow I brought them to me somewhere or something.
Right. Well, I'm beginning to wonder now if we pay them attention,
Yeah.
they pay us attention.
Right.
You know, just like what happened on the mountain, and you know, they showed up at my house.
Well, it don't work with women. Oh,
Huh?
sorry, nothing. My bad.
No,
Well, you know, I say, you know, if you know about them, they know you know.
yeah,
I don't know how.
yeah. I think they, yeah, I agree with you on that. And, so I mean, it's already. I mean, you've had a lot of stuff go on that was just weird,
Yeah.
you know, and
But you know, people that see them one time or have an experience usually have more experiences or see them more than one time, which I've never saw one.
well, I agree with that. It seems
Is it
like
because you're more open-minded, maybe?
that, or they know you know about it. And they
Oh yeah, there could be some of that aspect, and you're at right place, right time. And if you're gonna go to the woods, you're not gonna see stuff in the woods.
Right.
So a lot of it just has to do with the fact of where we're going.
But I firmly believe that if you know about them, I believe they know you know, and they mess with you.
Yeah,
Well,
I
I
agree
think-
with that. I agree 100%. They pretty much have followed me around since I've seen that one. And I mean, they come to the house down yonder. When I moved up to Oak Grove, they showed
Exactly.
up there by the church. I mean, right there on 280.
Yeah.
And people look at me crazy when I tell them that. No, they showed up there. And then the thing about it is, I've got other people that lived in there that said, "What in the world's going on in here right now?" Because they were hearing stuff. In fact, one of them was here the other night telling about they heard stuff. And then I found tracks in my mother's garden one day, that garden spot beside mother's house. And I don't know who's walking around barefooted, you know, in the wintertime.
Right.
You know, so stuff didn't make sense, you know.
Yeah. I found a track or two like behind where I live over there, but it's always just one single track. I've never found a whole trackway.
Right, it's hard. You usually don't find a big trackway.
Yeah. One single track's all I've ever found. Even up on Creepy Mountain, you'll see one track or like.
I ain't never even seen a whole track.
Like
I've
half
seen
a
it.
track.
You're right. I've seen a couple of toes,
Yeah.
or maybe a part of a heel or something of something. Of something.
Yeah, it could be. I mean, it's hard to say on that. I mean, some of us.
Of course, the ground's so hard up there, you know.
Well, yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I walk
you're not
around.
gonna find a track.
I go up there hunting barefooted
Well,
all the
even
time.
out here in this field,
Right.
when we found tracks, I only found 2 of them. I couldn't follow it off. No matter how I tried to follow it off, I could not find where it went. And then that time we found the ones on the pond, the little bitty ones, in the winter time. Which they went down the pond, and it may have stepped back into the grass. And once it gets in the grass,
Yeah, unless
Yeah.
you're a pro, you ain't gonna.
yeah, it's hard to tell. But
Right.
so there, and then the neighbor has found some tracks, and I mean, you only found 1 or 2. So I mean, you know, stuff. I don't know. I don't have a good answer for that, but I think we all know there's something weird there. You know,
Oh yeah.
you know, it's something weird.
Yeah.
You have shelled a bucket full of corn.
I got a bucket full of toilet paper too for you, brother.
Yeah, you do. I was gonna say I need you over here more often to do videos because I'll put you to work when I do it.
This is very therapeutic.
It is. I've always enjoyed shelling corn, especially when you're in corn. It shells good.
What are
Well,
you,
we're not gonna talk about that because all of this ain't shell good.
what are
Most
you,
of it
what are you
has-
gonna do with that corn?
I'll save a lot of seed because that's a sweet type corn, but it's an open pollinated sweet corn. So I had planned to shell most of it. And somebody else wants a little bit to plant or something, I'll give somebody some. You know. Like you're gonna have a pretty good bucket full before it's over with.
Well, it's gonna mound up, but I'm gonna get it all in here one way or the other.
But you got anything else for a Creepy Mountain happened, or you can think
Before
of?
Creepy Mountain? Well, let's see.
Because I can't even remember when you joined the club, exactly when you joined the club.
Well, I was in the club for over 10 years. But the only thing that I can remember right off is my dad telling me that, you know, my dad lived right next to me below Creepy Mountain over there. And he said sometimes he would hear something coming through the woods when he was outside at the time. And we had, there at one time, we had like 5 or 6 dogs. He said those dogs, you know, which those dogs always run around out in the woods and they were after everything. They would back all the way as far as they could against his house and bark at something. He said he could hear it going through the woods there. Never did see it, but those dogs, they wouldn't go up there and mess with it. They'd back up as close to the house as they could get and bark at it, like they were scared of it.
Yeah.
And other than that, you know,
As those hunting dogs do the same thing.
I can't really think of anything else right offhand. I'm sure there's something else that I hadn't thought of that happened before Creepy Mountain.
You remember what year you got in hunting club?
I don't.
I know it was a few years after we got it going.
Yeah. Yeah, y'all had it going quite a few years before I got in there.
And,
What year was it y'all first started?
96.
96. It was probably a year or 2 before that.
okay. So 96 is when we ended up
Yeah.
leasing the land. Of
I'm
course,
thinking.
at the time we didn't have the whole place, and then over time, you know, we started, you know, gathering more and more land.
Right.
And I won't say we done had a club maybe 4 or 5 years before you got in,
Oh yeah, at least.
or something of that nature.
Back when y'all first started the club, I was hunting down there in Coosa County where I was telling you that cabin was. We
Right.
hunted down there for years.
Right.
I mean, we were there every weekend.
And if y'all notice, we got a light here. That's why you're seeing that sometimes it's moving a little bit because there's a little wind blowing. So we're trying to have a little light because of the rain and all that. Because I got to fix my lights out here. But, so we got a little battery powered light. That's why. But I'm sitting over here and I'll watch it just turning. Y'all be bright for a minute, then you go dark for a minute. Maybe to stay still here in a minute. But
Hey, that's celebrity status there.
Yeah,
You're not
yeah.
always in the
They
spotlight.
might like it better when it's dark. I don't know.
Right.
But well, I know not long after me and Keith, which I think y'all had some stuff happen before me and Keith really said anything, didn't you? Hadn't you noticed some stuff up there before me and Keith
On
kind of
the
let
club,
the cat out of the
actually on the club.
Yeah, or was it after me and him let the cat out of the bag up there?
I probably never really paid any attention until y'all said anything about it. You know, it started. Because a lot of times the Sasquatch stuff, if you ain't really paying attention, it's subtle,
Yeah, it is.
and you won't know what it is.
Right. Yeah, it is. I agree.
Yeah, it's, when you start hearing these stories about it, that's
Yeah.
when you start thinking back, like we said a while ago.
Like,
Well, that's what that could have been.
like, well, for instance, here last August, about the beginning of August, I was on Lake Wedowee fishing off the boat there.
Now go ahead. I'm listening. I'm on.
All right, go ahead.
Go ahead. What you doing?
All right, I was fishing and I went up in this little cove.
Still not drinking a beer.
Go ahead.
I turned up in the little cove and I hear something coming through the trees, and I see a rock hit the bank right there and bounce. This is like it's like not 30 minutes after daylight in the summertime. It's hot, mosquitoes is out. As soon as the sun comes up, it's sweating. I mean, I look on X and there's nothing but woods back there, and I just don't think nobody was in those woods and throwed a rock at me.
Right.
But,
Right.
yeah, I just don't believe that. Somebody was out in those woods, and I saw the rock hit the ground and heard it coming through the trees, and it caught my attention when I heard it, and I saw it bounce. And I think there was a Sasquatch up in there, and that Sasquatch knowed I knowed about Sasquatch and throwed that rock. That's what
Good
I
possibility.
think. I mean, I may be crazy, but that's what I believe.
Well, there's several people that went over to the lake and had rocks thrown at them.
Yeah.
Be
Oh
hitting.
yeah, up on Creek Mountain. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I've had that happen too.
Oh, yeah.
But if I didn't know about Sasquatch or whatever, I just think there was somebody up in the woods
Right.
with a rock,
It was
and it
you.
could have been. I don't know.
Y'all need
But
to take a
it's-
break a second.
Sure.
All right, I'm gonna stop. We'll just take a little quick break. If y'all need to, hold on. All right, y'all, we back. We took us a little break a minute, so
Yeah.
and everything. So, Haddie, whatever you want to talk about, brother.
Well, after when I was on the lake fishing there and I saw the rock bounce, I didn't have my eyeglasses with me, but I tried to look up in there and see if I could see anything, and I wanted to, if I could have pulled up to the bank there. I was in a pontoon boat, bass fishing off of it, what I was doing. But if I had a spot where I could pull it up, I was gonna walk up in there, but there wasn't any spot I could pull the boat up because there's a bunch of logs and things like that up in there. I looked up in there, tried to see if I see anything, but I couldn't. But I did want to walk up in there just to see what throwed that rock.
Right.
But I just don't believe it was hot summertime. Mosquitoes was out.
What an easy spot to get to by land.
Yeah, and it was just I just don't believe nobody was up in there. I just don't believe it was somebody.
Well, you just like you'd heard.
Well,
maybe
we're-
more rock.
Who in the in August? Who's in the woods right at the break of day?
Right.
I mean, it hadn't been daylight 30 minutes.
And two, probably was it in an area pretty wooded?
Yeah, I looked on X my hunting app, and it was like, a few
Tons.
100 acres of just solid wood.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that I just kind of thought it. I think it's Sasquatch done that, but that's the only experience I've had down that way. But I'm trying to think of anything else that happened before Creeper Mountain. Right offhand, I'm sure there's something I'm forgetting, but I can't think of anything else.
Well, if you think of it in a minute, you can
Yeah.
throw it in there, Because I know how it is. I get brain fog, be trying to think. Boy, that rain sounds good, don't it?
I know, and I need to throw it in here in case anybody see me looking stupid over here. I can see my breath.
It's a little
That's
cool
the
out
first
here.
time I've got to be able to see my breath, and I'm
Yeah,
telling you, I
that's right.
love. Now I ain't
why I
quite
got
there
the
yet.
flannel shirt
But I'm
on.
gonna tell you, this weight loss, boy, in the mornings it is cold. I've had to put me a dang stick. I lost my dang insulation.
Oh,
I ain't gonna lie, I ain't happy about this weather change like I usually am. This fat boy weather right here qualifies as much as I used to. Cold.
When you used to be in 100 degrees most days, and it drops down to 60, it's cold.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
Sure
it
real
is.
quick.
It is. I've been freezing myself. Plus, getting older ain't helping matters none
Oh, yeah.
either.
Another thing too.
I'm getting younger. What are y'all talking about?
I guess I didn't really start paying attention on Creepy Mountain much till y'all y'all said something to me about it.
Yeah.
Y'all were investigating up there and researching things. Then I really started paying attention.
Yeah, me and Keith didn't let everybody know because we knew how some folks was act.
Right.
And
Because even up to that point, I didn't think there were any. Of course, the lake thing was, that's been recent, but up to that point, I didn't think that Sasquatch were in this area really.
right.
I still thought they were in the
Pacific
Northern
Northwest.
Yeah. That's when I really started looking.
Right. Yeah, it didn't. I was kind of under the same.
Yeah,
frame of
Northwestern Mountain Range, just where everybody just seemed like
Right.
that's where that
Yeah.
was.
But then once me and Keith started investigating and talking to Mr. Tal Banco or Bill White and Mike Mullane and other people, boy, we started finding out Alabama had a lot of sightings. A lot of people won't go on record to talk about it. They'll tell you personally, but that's as far as it goes. They don't. Some people don't even want it wrote down.
Yeah.
And because they scared somebody to figure it out it's them, and but there's history of it going back a long time. I mean, so, but
Yeah, after you told me about it, y'all had some experiences up there. Well, that's when I started going up there at nighttime on the weekends. Me and a couple of female friends of mine, Shawnee and Lisa. We'd go up there after dark, ride around in the Jeep, drinking beer, having a good old time, and then we'd ride around up there. And of course I could leave my house and go up through the woods and have to drive on the pavement or anything like that. And ride all in those mountains. And we'd stop and see if we heard anything, any vocals or anything like that. We figured out that those girls could scream just as loud as they could scream. And just about, usually only once a night, sometimes twice, we'd get a return vocal.
right.
And well, actually before that, it's when Keith, I was up there, and me and my brother were actually up there, and you and Keith were up there, and he had that bull drum,
Yeah.
and he pulled that string on that bull drum, and it roared, and something on the mountain roared back. Yeah,
We call it the T-Rex.
That's what got it started, actually, even before that.
Might be something to
Yeah.
this.
Yeah,
Yeah, I remember that night, y'all. We had been coon hunting. Larry was there
that's
too.
right.
We were down on number 9
Yeah,
road.
me and my brother were up there.
And we heard some crazy owl sounds going on, and the dogs quit hunting. And we were coming out and running into y'all, and that's when Keith drug out that drum bull, and
I remember that.
Yeah,
I remember. I thought you were saying your brother had it, but I was thinking, wait a minute, one of y'all had something. I remember Keith having that now. I
Yeah, he had a
remember that.
drum
Yeah,
bull.
I'd never seen a drum bull before.
I hadn't either.
Didn't know what it was.
I didn't
Right.
either. But boy, that sucker makes some racket.
Yeah, it makes a big roar sound.
Yeah, yeah. If you pull it right, it can
Yeah.
it can make a good sound. And
Yeah, and then the next time I was up there and Keith had it, you were there. Can't remember the timeline on that. But when Keith pulled that string on that drum bull and it roared, a perfect whoop, whoop sound
Yeah.
came off that mountain.
yeah,
Same direction.
oh yeah,
And it's just what does that?
yeah, right.
Would like to know.
First time, the first time he pulled it, as soon as Keith pulled it, it roared and something roared back. I mean, immediately. And it was the same thing with the whoop.
Yeah.
As soon as Keith pulled it, something answered back. But it was a whoop instead
That
of a roar.
that first roar, it hit us in the chest.
Oh, yeah.
And I mean, it was, we didn't know what to do from it. We didn't know to pack up and leave. Because I mean, it was, it was the, like you hear a T-Rex dinosaur on TV, that, I mean, it was,
Well, I'm sure it was probably a little unnerving too.
it was.
Yeah,
I mean,
people like us, we've been in the woods our whole lives. Middle of the night, 4 daylight, after dark. We know pretty much every sound up there.
Yeah.
That was just
This is not
normal.
common.
Yeah, not normal sound. If you hear
not that
them.
roar.
Yeah.
Not that roar.
Even the
was-
whoop, that's,
I mean,
just
that's
not
right.
something you hear. Owls don't whoop.
I have listened and listened to other people's audios before, and I have still not heard something. I've heard some close to that roar,
Yeah.
but not.
Now that you mentioned that, I hadn't either. I've heard a lot of vocals, but I hadn't heard anything that sounded like that.
I mean, this was a. I mean, it rattled them woods up there,
And
I mean-
I actually heard something like that again. We'd ride around in that Jeep. I spent a whole summer doing that. We'd go up on Friday night, Saturday night, and we'd ride around in the Jeep all night, and they'd get out and scream. And most of the time, we'd get a reply vocal. And sometimes it would be closer, and sometimes it would just like be barely in the edge you hear. And of course, we own like 10,000 acres up there, or something like that. And sometimes you could barely hear it, but usually at least one time a night, and I think after the first time they figured out, something ain't right here.
Right.
But usually at least one time we'd get a return vocal. Sometimes it was closer, but sometimes, you could barely hear it. But one night we were down there close to the beaver swamp. And they done that. And we were like 150, 200 yards, and something roared like that roar, like we heard, like a lion's roar. I mean, it was close. They both got jumped in the Jeep.
Now, was it back toward the lake or back up the other way?
It was across the road on the beaver swamp side, down on that creek, right down in there.
So it was on that side.
Yeah, not the lake side of the road,
But that's
the
other
main
side.
road, but the other side.
Okay.
And I'm like, why y'all getting in that Jeep? I mean, it had a soft top with plastic windows in it. I mean, that's not gonna help you. But I said, we done been messing around up
They
there. all night.
expected you to be getting in there too and
Well, I'll tell you.
leaving.
Yeah.
I'll tell you.
We messed around. I said, I think they tired of us fooling with them tonight, so we went on and got out of there.
Shawnee learned how to do that very well.
Oh yeah,
She had that down pat, and typically she could get a response.
yeah.
She could get one to answer back.
Very few nights we went up there and they done that, or her. Sometimes it's her and Lisa. Sometimes it's her. Very few nights we didn't get some type of response back.
They're not as vocal up there as they used to be. And it may be because there's been so many different people over the years up there. I don't know. They just don't seem to answer back like they used to.
But yeah, we'd ride all over the mountain. We'd go to this side, then we'd ride over to the other side, and then we'd ride to the far end. And we'd always get at least one response.
Did you ever notice one area seemed to be better
Most
than
of the
others?
time around at the forks above the beaver pond there, where the little intersection is, I think it's because you can hear better from right there. for some
Yeah, you
reason.
can hear more of the clue.
You can hear it more.
Forks above, like at the, up to
What
the
we
top
call
of
the
The little
little
crossroads is.
where
when
two
you go-
turned off.
Yeah, right there is the little forks, because for some reason you hear pretty much the whole club right there.
I mean, that's not very
That, or
far
you can
from
go
where.
on out on 10 over to 10A.
Yeah,
You get on top of that low hill. Now you can hear the whole place from there.
yeah.
Because that's where Mr. Tall done the the elk call, the bull elk call. The first time he went up with me and Keith and got them responses, and them responses came from down in there off of number 9 road.
Yeah,
And
yeah. Most of the time it was back over that way.
Most of mine, any interactions or anything that happened that I can't explain, most of them happened up closer to where that, what did we decide to call that, swamp on the mountain?
Oh yeah.
and on over
Yeah.
toward the other side. Yeah.
But that roar down on that, it was on that creek going to the beaver swamp, we call it, or across the road. That was it was really loud, and really close that
Yeah.
night.
Well, I know a lot of nights you would go sit up with Pat when he'd come up and stay.
Yeah.
You and Rusty both done that.
Oh yeah, yeah,
A lot of
we've all
times
done that.
A lot of times I wouldn't be there, and I know sometimes stuff happened, sometimes it didn't. And
Yeah.
I know one night, me and Pat was there, and you pulled up on a four-wheeler,
Yep.
and we were telling you, hey, there's one right there behind that pine tree,
Right.
and then your dog lunged up, started running toward it, barking, and then and it growled at the dog,
It
and the
did
dog
growl.
just done a whoop, and
Yeah.
come right back and got up under Pat's trailer and would not come out until Haddie got ready to leave. So
Yeah, we pulled
What
up there.
dog?
Huh?
Rufus?
It was Baby, the German Shepherd.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, we pulled up there and Mark and Pat said there's one right there behind that tree. I'm like, oh hell. So we pull up there and we just sitting there, you know. And the minute that sucker, well, the dog ran out there and that whatever it was behind that tree growled and the dog come running back and got up under the chair right there. Oh wow.
I mean, it was
close,
a
too. I mean, the tree's like really close to where we're sitting at.
Oh, I believe you. I've
It
seen
was
that.
weird.
I've seen that with the coon dogs before. I've seen it with the deer dogs. I'm pretty sure. I mean, even though it's daytime, I've seen both of them get out of the truck and head into the woods
Yeah.
and not be gone, but you know,
But
a minute.
We'd leave the house on the floor and right up there all the time, middle of the night.
Oh, yeah.
So, we spent
Oh, yeah.
a lot of nights up there on the floor.
Lots of nights.
they and like that night when you pulled up, we done been watching him for a while
Yeah.
because he was peeping around the tree and you see his eyes, and
I kind of thought y'all was pulling my leg a little bit when I first pulled up there.
yeah, we wasn't pulling your leg because I kept telling you
Yeah.
you might want to get her off forward
Till
and
it
bring her
growled.
over here by us. You
Yeah.
know? And but see, he done besides looking at us, he done made some little racket over there. And you'd see him when he'd peep out because them eyes would light up. And
Well, I actually went back and looked, after that to see how, because that tree was right on the edge of that bank.
Over at Spillway.
yeah,
Yeah.
on- yeah.
Where that growl was, when you walk back there,
drops.
it had to be tall.
Because that drops right there.
Exactly,
Yeah.
yeah. Because the growl's like way up here.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it had to be really tall to be standing there, whatever it was.
Yeah, he was right there on top of us. I don't know how long he'd been there before we finally seen him. We just both I said, "You see that?" And he said, "Yeah, I see him looking at us."
Well, down that way, not far, is I think watermelon, and is that where you had a watermelon incident?
Nah, the watermelon came from over close to that other place you were talking about over at the other swamp.
But that is over where we had it, where we smelt that night. Were you with us in that? Where we always stop going off the leave from the lake and go
The little
down.
halfway point down
Yeah,
there.
yeah. Well, we always stopped at, and you was with us with the ammonia smell that was there so bad that night.
I can't remember. We went through there so many
Oh,
times.
yeah,
it's hard to
yeah.
find.
Well, I know that happened, and then the night we had the outing, when
Yep.
Mr. Mike, Mr. Tall, see Pat was there, Jim King.
Y'all,
Go ahead,
excuse
man.
me
Do
for
whatever you
just a
need to
minute.
do. Go ahead and do whatever you need to do.
Hello.
See, I can't remember all who was there that night. There was a bunch of people.
Yeah, I don't remember everybody's names. See, that was the first time I'd met them. And the only time, I guess. But yeah, when the rock got left on Mr. Tall's camper,
Yeah,
on
the
top
rock.
of it. Yeah, rock about that big.
Had that, and then, some of us split up later that night. Mr. Tall and Keith went up on top of what we call 10A because that was cut over then. That's when me and you, Shoney, and I had Katie with me.
Yes.
We went over to the four-way you talking about, the split.
Right.
And I know you didn't see it. I know that me and Shoney seen it. And of course I done put Katie in the truck because I knew something was on top of us because I had my hunter ears on and I kept saying something's here on top of us. I got nervous, put her on in the truck. And I think you had walked to your Jeep to get something.
Yeah.
And about that time he stood up
Yeah, I missed it.
behind the
Hey,
truck and I said, "There he is." Shoney let out a little squeal and started trying to climb my back. I remember that because she was just going up on top of me, and I was trying to keep my eyes on him, and of course he dropped down and took off through that cut over like a horse, and I know you had to go to the Jeep or something. I forgot to get something when all that took place.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah, I'd walked off for a
but
second.
did you hear him when he went through? When he went through the pines, did you remember hearing him?
I can't remember. It's been so long ago. It's
Yeah,
hard
that
to
was
say
around
for sure.
08, 09,
Yeah.
wasn't it? Yeah.
It's been a long time. But I remember that night clearly. But I don't remember if I
Well,
heard
it's-
anything or not right there at that instant.
I heard some.
I think we heard some vocals.
Yeah, we heard some vocals, and because you know they called from the lake. Well, they told us y'all go. You know, there was about 3 groups of us. Cause one group went up to the clubhouse. That was Pat and a couple of others went up to the clubhouse or the sign-in board area then, because we didn't have a clubhouse yet.
Right.
And you know, we were right there at the 4-way, and then you know, Mr. Tall and Keith went up on top of 10A, and you know, we let them know we was over when we got there, and then they started making calls from the lake, and then we got some calls between us and the lake. They were right there on top, you know, wasn't far.
Yeah.
And then Pat and them heard some kind of back over on that private land. And, you know, and it wasn't later, you know, wasn't too long later is when the one stood up behind the truck and scared the devil out of me and Shoney. And Katie doesn't, when I talked to her about it, she just remembers the big commotion happening.
Yeah.
She remembers her Aunt Shoney screaming. And
yeah, I wish I could have.
I'm back.
I wish I could have got a look at it that night. I'd never got to see one yet.
well, he had, you know, he had eyes like silver dollars. That's what I remember. And they had the swirls in it like the Twilight Zone. You know, like the black and white swirls. You know how they do on Twilight Zone when they come on. And you know, that's what I remember about it. I mean, his eyes were swirling, and that's when it. You know, I mean, it really. Between that and some other stuff happening, when I started thinking, I said something's different about these things. They're not, you know, flesh and blood. When I started, you know, not completely flesh and blood, but, or something, you know, to them.
Yeah, we rode around up there for a whole summer, every weekend at night doing that, and heard, bukus of vocals, but never saw one. We heard lots and lots of vocals.
Now, one of your friends, I ain't gonna say his name, 'cause he might not want us to, but remember one morning he went up to go turkey hunting,
Yeah.
and he has to use the restroom,
Yeah, right.
and had something charge him,
He did.
you know, and scared the devil out of him. And
Yeah, he had his had his drawers down, and he said he had heard something over there like a funny sounding owl, and he said in a minute something started running straight toward him right through the woods. Now it's 4 daylight, he can't see a thing, you know. And he's got his pants down, and he grabs the shotgun and aims it that way. Still got his pants down, and whatever it was stopped. He never heard nothing else.
yeah.
Didn't hear it walk off. Nothing.
Yeah, he told me about that. He said that shook me up. And then I know him and his wife a couple of times rode to the lake.
Yeah,
And
I was there one day with them when the rocks got thrown in the lake. I was sitting there, and they also had it happen while I wasn't there. But yeah, we were there one day in the daytime, and rocks were getting thrown in the lake we were on the little point there that goes down.
Right.
And they were coming from the
across the
yeah.
lake there, up off the
By
hill up there.
where that little field is back
Yeah.
toward that way. Yeah.
Y'all could hear them coming through the trees before they even
Oh, yeah.
hit the water.
Yeah, several of them got thrown in the lake, and they had to have them then after that.
And this lake, y'all, just to kind of draw a picture for y'all that don't know where it's at. It's not like there's a road, an access way to get around, but one side of it.
Right.
And you would hear somebody coming if they were in a vehicle or a four-wheeler or anything for a long ways before they would
Right.
get there. And to walk in from the other side, from where you could drive to, is just, I don't know. I mean, you would have to really be hard up for a good laugh to, and it's not really possible when it comes right down to it. All the people that have had the rocks being thrown through the trees.
I mean, it's just like,
It couldn't occur that many times without somebody
the
living.
direction it came from is woods,
Right,
and there's
right.
no roads over there.
Right.
So you're gonna have to be sitting there waiting.
Right. And
Nope.
it's not possible with that many people that it's happened to.
It's
just,
not like people's up there all the time.
Right.
Just every now and then.
This
somebody
lake
gets
is in the middle of thousands of acres, and it's blocked off and gated off. And yes, there was trespassers, and like it goes back to what I said. You know, if somebody was, on a four-wheeler And yeah, they could have, but they'd have want to really try it really, really hard. But tell me how they would have accomplished that.
Yeah, if you wanted to
that
prank
many
somebody,
times.
you might go up there and sit there all day and nobody come up.
Exactly.
And you'd have to be waiting in the woods for them to come up there.
Yeah, it's not practical for it to be done by a human being. Now, y'all tell us what we don't know. That's why we're here.
Yeah,
But I can just
same way with the corn patch.
and this wasn't during hunting season, so there was no hunters up there.
Right,
This
right,
was in the
right.
summertime.
right.
Because I mean, you can go up on that club sometimes during the week, and you're the only person there.
Yes. Oh yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
there's nobody else around. And
I've been on that club many a times.
all by myself all day long.
Yeah, the whole mountain, and we're the only person up there.
Yeah.
So-
I think we've all
'Cause
experienced
you
that.
can hear most vehicles coming for a long
can.
way.
Oh yeah, with the gravel and on the road and the openness
Sometimes the
of it.
four-wheeler can get up a little closer on you, but most times you hear them
Yeah, you do.
within a half a mile of you,
Yeah.
because you'll hear that whoa,
Yep.
whoa, and you know as well as I do. You get up there at night, and it gets still. You can hear the 4-lane. You can hear you can hear a lot going on.
Hear donkeys hollering down in these fields down in here.
Cows bellowing,
Yeah.
and so you can hear a long way, and you can hear a vehicle. I mean,
You ain't gonna get caught up there unless you just want to get caught. Put it that way.
yeah. 'Cause you can. I mean, you hear something coming.
So it's just not practical for somebody
Yep.
to have
Yeah, the chances somebody just waiting in the woods all day to throw a rock when
for
somebody
that
rides
many
up the
people.
lake.
Yeah,
I
it's
mean,
just
you'd be sitting there. You might sit there a week of Saturdays or Sundays,
right.
waiting for somebody to ride up there to throw a rock.
So when you hear that, what I was getting to, so y'all understand, it's just not like there's Park Street on the other side of it, and the neighborhood kids are throwing rocks. This is in the middle of thousands of acres, and it's just not practical for it to be.
It's just like even I was talking about with the corn patch here the other day, and I told everybody, could this be a hoax? I don't know who would sit out here in the corn patch and wait on me every day,
Right.
Because they never know when I'm going to do a video.
Right.
Because I mean, I might do a video on a Friday, and then I might skip. So for them to sit there
Yeah, it's just
and wait, well, Mark Green's gonna come out here in a minute.
not practical.
It's not practical. And then when you got a neighbor over here half a mile away that has some stuff happen, and then you have another neighbor another half a mile away, and all this is very late at night when some of this stuff happens, and then you're finding tracks on your property, you're having stuff slap your house, you're having all these different things happen. Who would be a nut job to want to come up here and slap your house late at night?
Right.
No one, because I get out here and target practice some, knows that I probably have a weapon around the house.
Well, I have that happen at my house during the daytime.
Yeah, you've told me about that.
at least once a year, something slaps the side of my house there in the same little corner during the daytime. One time it done it so hard I thought something actually I thought a vehicle had ran into the house.
Wow.
And he lives on a dead end road.
Yeah, right.
So he can hear anything coming.
Right.
But now,
And I got cameras too.
another
But
thing is...
Not there.
Not that corner, yeah. It's not an important spot, so I don't have a camera there.
Maybe you
But
should put one there.
yeah,
how far is
Well,
your
that's-
property from the club line? Probably half a mile or that far?
half a mile or less.
Yeah, less.
So
Yeah.
that's how close Haddie is to the hunting club.
Yeah,
It's
By
like,
the way the crow flies, probably more like a quarter mile.
and Rusty's the same
Oh, yeah,
way.
probably
Rusty's
quarter.
right at it too. So.
Yeah, it's several hundred yards. I know that if you walk from my house there, so
Right.
probably a quarter to a half.
Yeah, you have to cross one little set of private property, and then you're right on top of the hunting
Right.
club. So.
But yeah, I mean a lot of times
There's
happens
nothing
late.
between you and the hunting club either, but woods.
Yeah, it actually happened the other day.
Yeah,
I,
yeah.
I was there, which Michelle, my wife's heard it before too. But I looked out there and I didn't see anything. So I don't know what that is doing now. But it sounded like just like something bam upside the house. And you look out there and you don't see nothing.
Well, anything else you think of from up on the mountain right offhand, or?
The only thing I can think of that I didn't mention was I was up there one night with another lady friend of mine, and we used to go up there, which for years I'd go up there on a weekend and hang out. Lady people come up there and we'd hang out. We'd build a fire.
Right. Oh yeah.
And it was just a little spot people come to.
What we did.
Yeah. But I was up there and we had a we'd actually took some honey buns and things like that, me and that girl, and hunt and put out there. About in the area you had the watermelon. Well, we got kind of creeped out. I said, well, let's get in the Jeep, make a loop, and we'll come back. And we just had that creepy feeling, you know what I'm saying? Well, we left the lake going back toward the clubhouse, and there's a patch of briars right there.
Yeah.
And it sounded, I don't know if this is Bigfoot or paranormal, but it sounded like a kid's laugh. And I can't do it because my voice doesn't go that high, but it's like, you know,
Yeah.
how a kid laughs.
Yeah.
I looked at her, she looked at me, I said, what'd you hear? She said, I heard a kid laugh. I said, that's exactly what I heard. And it just,
I got
weird.
chills.
Yeah,
I
it
don't
was
even get
weird.
wigged out
And there
by
wasn't
that.
nothing there,
I mean,
but a big patch of briar, of course, you know,
Yeah.
all the pines behind it.
again, y'all, we're in the middle of thousands
Yeah.
of acres.
Right
This
in
ain't
that area.
3 minutes from Walmart. It's in the middle of nothing.
Right in that area was nothing but a big patch of briars,
Right.
and of course the woods behind it. So we made a little loop and come back, and but yeah, it creeped me out. We had that creepy feeling before we ever even
That
took
was
off.
giggling.
Yeah, it was like,
excited
it
about
was
them.
just like a kid giggling or something.
Giggling about them honey buns.
Yeah, I guess so. I don't know.
They'd, you know, Adam Bassett, you know, he done a lot of audio from that area. You know, he kept recorders up there all the time. You know, I'd go retrieve them for him and, you know, get them to him. And we think a lot of stuff we were picking up had to be paranormal too, because it's just, and I mean, this, you know, when he had it, he knew the times, you know, and how long, you know, what time of morning it would be. And man, there'd be some stuff going on at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning that's just crazy. I mean, you wouldn't hear a vehicle, you wouldn't hear, but you'd hear people talking. You'd hear, I mean, just crazy stuff that just didn't make no sense. And we knew what nobody.
He was up there recording. There. He didn't get nothing to me on there, did you?
No. We could tell when a vehicle come through. You could hear it.
Right.
We recording. We was up there hanging out and telling what he heard.
Oh, right. That's what I'm thinking.
Well, most of the time, a lot of the recordings were done during the week, where we could get away from activity on the hunting club.
Yeah.
A lot of times he would come and leave the recorder, and then I'd go back the next day and retrieve it. And then sometimes on some weekends we would leave them. Sometimes we would hear vehicles come to the lake, and you'd hear people talking down at the lake. But you'd always hear them leave too. You'd hear the car door shut, hear it crank, and hear them leave. Sometimes right after they left, I ain't talking 10 minutes, you start hearing stuff around the lake that was, you know, strange. And I don't know how many times we've been up there at night here talking, but nobody's on the club.
Oh,
but,
yeah.
you know, you couldn't tell what they were saying, but you'd hear
I've heard that
mumbling.
in woods my whole life and didn't even
Right.
realize what it was till the past few years. But even back years ago when we hunted in Coosa County, I hear that. You hear people talking, and wasn't supposed to be anybody down there.
Right.
And you can't make out what they're saying, but I've heard that
Mumbling kind of.
my whole life out in the woods.
We've heard it.
Yeah.
I don't know how many times up there I've heard it. And sometimes I tried to, first few times I heard it, I just said, well, I'm hearing it from down in the, where the communities are, and it's just carrying. But when you're up there at 2 o'clock in the morning and you're just sitting there and all of a sudden you hear, and you be like, what?
Yeah.
And you start looking around and you ain't heard a vehicle. You know everybody's in bed. And, you just start saying, this ain't.
Right.
Right. Well, anything you want to add, Haddie, before we get off here?
And I'm going to tell you now, you're going to think of stuff later on.
Oh, I know.
Well, I know.
We'll, probably on the way home, we're going.
I'm forgetting all kinds of stuff.
So
I know I am.
Part 2 will be
Well,
coming
don't worry
up.
about it. Well, we'll get you down the road if you think of some stuff. And
Yeah, that's all I can think of right off the major stuff.
so,
But yeah, I mean, as far as the Creepy Mountain, whole summer, every weekend, we heard vocal after vocal after vocal. So, I mean, it was just a weekend thing we did, and we didn't try to record anything or film anything. We were just up there, trying to have some kind of experience, and we did all the time. It was just never had a sighting though. I didn't.
did
But,
you ever,
heard all kind of vocals though.
ever smelt something up on the club?
Not that I remember.
What you
I mean, I
mean.
might have it. I was with y'all on the 4 that time, but never smelt anything funny.
Okay. You never have, you seen any tracks on the club?
Oh yeah, I've seen tracks.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I thought you had.
Yeah, I found a nice track in the what road? It's hard for me to remember the roads because I'm not on the club anymore. But let's say it'd be 2E, where that little field goes out the
On
top
top of
of
the,
yeah. Perfect track right there I found. And I actually found, I don't know what this was, but it was in the shape of a track, like a human foot track, but it was fur. I had a picture of it now. I don't have it anymore, but I can probably, if I can retrieve some of my crashed computer pictures. It was fur, but it was in the perfect shape of a footprint. But it was like pressed down rabbit fur. Had brown in it, like I don't know, but it was in the perfect shape of a human footprint. So I don't know what to deal with that.
Pretty cool.
But it was fur.
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
So I don't know what that was. But yeah, I found like I said, the single tracks, like half a foot, like where they went across the roads. Not any huge tracks though. Most of them were smaller.
Right.
Like human size or a little bigger maybe.
Yeah.
I never found any 20-foot.
Well, only time we ever found that
20
big one,
inch.
found any bigger ones was when Mr. Tao went out there, at night. That one took off running, it stood up by us, and
Yeah.
we found that one little spot out there, and he found that one kind of impression. And when he measured it, it was around 18 inches.
That whole mountain is just rock.
Yeah.
It's rocky, it's
So,
hard.
I mean, it's gonna have to be some wet.
You have to get down in one of the creek
You know,
bottoms.
right
or
after
something.
a rain
Yeah.
or the edge.
And you don't find them in the road much.
No.
I
I found one like on the edge of the road, and it was like half a track, but it was like my size foot.
Yeah.
And down there by the house, I found a pretty good print, but it wasn't a very, very big print either.
Yeah.
So it might have been a juvenile, wouldn't it? I don't think there's anybody human barefooted running around back there.
Not too many folks, I think, nowadays run around barefooted. Not
No.
much. And
No, we all got Crocs on.
well, that and especially like up on the mountain, rocky as it is and snaky it is. I mean,
Yeah, most of those roads are just solid rock.
yeah, they're rocky and.
Crocs is not a sponsor of this video either. Just want to make sure everybody knows that. We're not endorsements and those kind of.
Well, anything else either one of y'all like to add before I get off here?
No, can't think of anything.
No.
About it.
Well,
When we get stopped, something will come to mind. We'll do it part
Well,
2.
I appreciate both of you coming on. I appreciate you, Haddie, telling some of the stuff. I know that you've never seen one, but I know you've experienced some things that are just strange and out of the
Yeah.
ordinary.
You know, over the years, you catch glimpses of things in the woods, even before you start thinking about Sasquatch, and you look back and think, well, maybe that was, you catch glimpses of things in the woods,
Right.
things in the woods
Right.
when you're hunting things.
Right.
I never got a good look at one. If I did see one, I didn't get a good look at it.
Right.
I could tell that's what it was.
Right.
It's on our bucket list.
Right. And if I see one, I want it to be in the daytime and not walk up on it before daylight when I'm headed to the tree stand.
Or with your pants down.
I don't really want no
Yeah.
face-to-face one either.
Right.
I'd rather it still be out like that first one I seen a little ways from it.
Yeah.
I don't
I
know
don't
about.
mind seeing a close-up during the daytime, but
Yeah.
on the way to my tree stands before daylight, I don't want to walk
I
up.
just want to have my phone handy. Don't let it be when I don't have my phone on.
If you have your phone, you probably won't even be thinking about the
You're
phone.
probably right. You're probably
Yeah,
right.
you probably
I'll
won't.
probably be on the phone with some dang woman anyway and miss it all. Be my
And it's hard to go in the woods before daylight and not be thinking about, they're there.
That is,
Tell
once
you
you
that.
realize they exist, it's a whole
Yeah.
different ball game.
Right.
I agree 100% with that.
Well, you think a little different now when you go in.
Oh, yeah, you do.
Yeah. Your thinking starts changing.
But ain't nobody got hurt by one yet, so I guess we all right. And I always keep that in mind, too.
Well,
But you
the
know
ones,
they're there.
well, the ones around here that we know of, I know.
Well, yeah,
of,
in this area.
I hadn't really
How do we know
heard.
that ain't
As
where
far
the
as we
missing?
know, anyway.
How do we know that? There you go. How do we know that ain't where all the missing people will go from?
Well, there's possibilities, but we
Yeah.
don't know that 100%.
Right.
But there are some weird things going on and
Had nobody ever come up missing on
Right.
Creepy Mountain.
that we know of.
Yeah.
That we know of, so.
So I always try to keep that in mind.
Well, I appreciate everybody watching our video. I appreciate Haddie and Rusty being on with me today, and I hope y'all you've learned some more about different things that's going on in this area. And I appreciate everybody that's been watching my videos and commenting, and y'all keep doing that. And we've got a good channel going. Everybody's doing good. Me and Rebecca have our live Friday night at 7 again. I don't know what plant she'll be talking about this time. She'll have some kind of herb she's going to talk about. And appreciate all the kind comments about the pictures from the corn patch. Like I told everybody, that was on your own discretion to see what you think you was looking at. And y'all remember, everybody we support. Give a shout out to everybody we support. You know who they are. And y'all remember what I always say: love one another, get along, don't be judgmental, because it don't cost nothing to be kind. So I'm going to let these fellas off the hook, because I know they probably ready to go home and go to eat. And but I appreciate them being on, and we'll see y'all next time. And y'all got anything you want to say real quick?
Adios.
See you next time.
All right, y'all take care. This is Mark from Cedar Creek Bottom Farmstead with another fireside chat, and we'll see y'all later. Y'all have a good week. Love y'all. Bye-bye.